What's up? All right, hey guys, welcome to another edition of Shop Talk. All right, for all you gun geeks out there, me included, you're going to love this episode. I got something pretty cool to show you and to talk about. And what we're going to talk about, like this kind of stuff, is what just really, really interests me. Like, hey, continue talking about that. I want to know some more about it. So I'm going to share it with you. Okay. There's a gun out there called a Strike One. It is made by International Firearm Corporation, IFC. If you've heard about a Strike One, awesome. If you have not, let me tell you about it. It's made in Italy. It's a striker fired. They come in 9mm and 40. And like at one time, it was a real expensive gun, like well over $1,000 to get one. I think they got recently either bought out or sucked up into another company called PMG, and PMG has in their holding company Salient Firearms. And if you know anything about Salient Firearms, they're like the Bugattis of guns. They take like a standard gun and then trick it all out with all the cuts and grooves and cool guy stuff to make it look like, Call of Duty gun. And those guns are real expensive. I mean, $3-4 grand for a Glock 19 that's been tricked out. I would say that not like it shoots like a whole heck of a lot better, but it sure does look cool when you're at the range. Well, seeing how it's like IFC got sucked up underneath PMG, they stopped importing these guns from Italy, or IFC has. Well, now this PMG group is coming out with Strike A and Strike B sometime this year or beginning of next year. I'm sure it's shot this year. They'll show it off. Basically, what it is a Strike One, and then Salient has come in there and put their Victoria's Secret magic all over to make it look real sexy. So, what is unique about a Strike One is what we're going to talk about today. Here is your Strike One. Dun, da, da. Strike One. That's right. My kids hate it when I do that stuff. So anyway, 9mm. This barrel is 6.25 inches long. It's pretty daggum long for a concealed carry gun, in my opinion, but nonetheless, you can do it. At first glance, it's like, okay, whatever, what's the big deal about it? Well, I got to talk to Tony, Museo or whatever the heck his last name is. But anyway, I talked to Tony when I was out in, where was that? Oh, I was in Austin at a VFOB event, Veteran Family of Businesses. That's that VFOB is like what, like Marcus Luttrell's Team Never Quit, Ride On Optics, Seal One, Lubricant, and a bunch of these families of Axelson Tactical is in there. It's just this organization that up under the VFOB umbrella, they work to help promote veteran-owned businesses. Anyway, they put on an event down in Austin, and I went down there, and so Tony from IFC was there, and he was demoing some of these guns, and I was like, well, what makes your gun special, man? He's like, well, the recoil goes straight back. It doesn't go up. So in essence, you really don't feel any jump in your hand, and that way, if you do what you do right, you could tack drive with this thing. I'm like, what? Okay, well, I'm sure, in some shape, form, or fashion, I've heard that from, just about everybody who manufactures guns, how their gun is better, right? So at this point, I'm not really believing it. And I call it BS. And the dude's like, okay, well, here you go. Here's a couple magazines. Go right here and shoot it. I'm like, okay, but I'm just going to be honest with you. it ain't gonna do what you say it does. You know, I loaded that thing up and fired it. He was 100% right, and I had to eat crow about it. That son of a gun came straight back, no popping up of muzzle flip, no jumping at all. And it took me a magazine to like really understand, you know, how this gun was going to operate while I was shooting it. I loaded up that second magazine, and I promise you, dude, within a $50 size at 15 yards, I emptied that magazine as fast as I could pull the trigger. Yeah, it was pretty remarkable. So I was like, okay, well, tell me what did you guys do different that makes it do that? And he's like, well, most guns use a locking lug, and we use a cam. Okay, well, my degrees are not in engineering, so you got to show me like pictures or crayons or like a McDonald's cash register symbol or something so I can understand what you're talking about. So I'll show you what he showed me. Come on. All right, check this out. So here's how the barrel sits in your Glock, right? So right about yonder way. Here, get up here so that you can see it better, right? And then when you shoot and the slide goes back, the barrel goes up, right? And that happens every time you shoot. So like when you pull the slide back to put it in slide lock, whether to show clear or whatever, you'll see that the barrel points up like that. So every time it fires, I'm trying to get where I've got a good background, but everything in the back is black. It goes, that's my suppressed sound effect. All right. Anyway, pow, pow, pow. And there's where you get the muzzle flip from. And that's because you have locking lugs, and then there's, you know, the locking block, and they work succinctly with each other. But the strike one, you have a cam. And so watch the barrel. Straight back, right? Oh my gosh. Here we go. Yeah, we can't all have cool moments, you know. Every now and then you get a little slippery. It's because I got all this grease on this gun. All right, let me put this Glock back, and we'll look at what it does. I already know, EJ. I know you know. You better know. All right. But I need it so I can make a comparison. So there you go. So see how the barrel is flipped up? And then this here barrel is straight. Interesting, right? Like, that's the first thing that caught my attention. So check this out. Watch the barrel go up. All right. All right, so if you geek out on stuff like that, like, you're in heaven right now. And I'm one of those guys too. So right away, I'm like, okay, that is pretty bad to the bone. I've never seen anything like that in a pistol before. That right there says, okay, I got to get one. I got to have one. Now, having fired it for a while, I'm like, it is a straight up tack driver. So like if I was running competitions, yeah, that's the gun I would use for competition now. Unfortunately, the downside is there are minute things that you do with your grip, stance, and recoil management with your standard like Glock or SIG or anything else that uses a locking lug that you have a training scar and it kind of hurts you with a cam. And they're so minute, like there is a small percentage of a slight downward hold on the gun that we all have, and we just don't admit it at parties. That, and I'm as guilty of it too, that when you shoot the strike one, you're actually going to be pushing the barrel and the gun down at that slightest little angle. And for me, my shots were just a hair bit low. I'm like, why am I doing that? And then, it kind of hit me, because the way that I grip the Glock has the support hand gripping really tight, and then with the two thumbs pushing forward, and I roll the wrists. Look at the way that I'm rolling. Where's the pressure going? Down at this type of angle, right? And that's in order to mitigate that. Well, with the strike one, for me, I had to let up on the thumbs so that I wasn't pushing down. Now, I went ahead and locked the wrists forward, but this hand was actually rode a little bit higher and a little bit more forward as to get, the underbelly of the gun supported, but not necessarily with the thumbs pushing down on it. And quite honestly, I didn't realize that I put pressure like that on the gun, and that was surprising to me. We're always learning. So anyway, I say all that to say that there was a slight bit of training scars that I had to overcome with shooting the strike one. But now that I know that I need to make that conscious change, it's no problem whatsoever. Another factor for the strike one, and again, I'm just geeking out on the engineering. I think the gun it's pretty hard to find a holster for, and it's a little too long for what I would carry for concealed carry. Because there's not a lot of them out there. Industry really doesn't have a whole lot of Gucci gear for it, as far as inside the waistband, outside the waistband holsters that are not $230 and above. But I just think the engineering is really, really innovative for that. Like if Glock or SIG ever picked up on a cam, and I understand they'd probably have to go back and retool the whole shop to do that. But if they ever did that, if they could make it cost effective, that's a game changer right there. A total game changer. Even if they just did it on competition guns alone and charged extra for it. I personally would buy one because of how different, in different meaning better, it shoots. So another factor for them is how low the bore axis is. All right. So obviously, getting a good grip on it, there's the middle of your barrel right there. Take, for instance, this SIG. It's a 226, so 9mm, right? I'm trying to do this the right way. So, man, it's hard to do it in the camera by yourself. Anyway, what you see is the middle of the barrel for the SIG is right here. The middle of the barrel for the strike one is right here. Let's get it up perfectly. So it's a lower bore axis. Well, okay, Jay, what does that mean, a lower bore axis? Well, ideally, we'd want to hold a gun right here to shoot it, because it's a natural extension of the hand. Anytime we place the gun above the hand, we have the wrist that comes into play, And you obviously know the wrist can turn like a daggum owl's head, right? But if I'm here, then my shots should go, would be a lot more, accurate, especially on follow-up shots. Also, the elbow, you could lock it out, roll your shoulder in, and just tack drive it. Because the recoil, ideally, we would love to go straight up our radius here into the bicep and into the shoulder pocket, right? Well, that's not really possible because the slide has to reciprocate. So in a lot of cases, you'll see the beaver tails, right? Because we want you to get as high up on the gun as possible without getting bit by the slide. And so as the slide goes back and forth, this beaver tail keeps our hand fat from creeping up there and us bleeding all over the gun unnecessarily. Well, with the Strike 1, they've got the beaver tail. And then I still get really high on the gun without getting bit, and the barrel is a lot lower than, say, the SIG. It's just a hair bit lower than the Glock. I mean, just a hair bit. I mean, like, for me, that would not be the factor that would say, okay, well, I guess the Strike 1's for me then. It's almost insignificant, really. But when you add the fact that it's a cam and not a locking lug, then that's huge. It's a huge game changer because of the way that the recoil is felt. So looking at the Strike 1, I want to break it down for you real quick so you can see what I'm talking about. Cool. So basically you have a push right there. It comes out, right? Like that. And there it is. Same thing with the spring. And then here we go. That is what makes it travel. Come here. Straight. There we go. Cool, huh? Again, I totally geek out of this kind of stuff. And then look at the frame. Like, it's straight. That's some Tron stuff right there, man. Just flat. Not a whole lot of getting in your way. Engineering is pretty cool on that stuff. Again, stuff you just don't see every day. So here's the slide for your Glock. There's the slide for the Strike 1. It's just cool. I'm not an engineer, but man, I can appreciate, good engineering when I see it. Kind of like art. I'm not an artist, but I appreciate good art. So yeah, man, it's just unique in how they design that, and I'm sure Salient, when they get it, is just gonna, trick it out even better. Probably put a Gucci trigger in there, and they'll make some slide cuts on there and put an RMR probably on it, and stipple the grip, and all the fancy stuff that costs you 3 times more than the gun's worth. But what light do I put on it? I don't know. It's got a Picatinny rail on there. Probably could put I could put an aim point T1 on the bottom of that thing. You know, it's so big. But as far as lights are concerned, you know, I'm a TLR 1 HL guy. But you know, the Surefire works good. I think Enforce has got a little light out there. It's not too bad. For me, I like the TLR 1 just because I get holsters for them. You know, when you start getting into all these other, you know, cool guy lights that don't have as big a market presence as a Streamlight or a Surefire, it gets hard to find a holster that doesn't cost you, you know, a sample of your liver and your, you know, firstborn son. But anyway, I just thought I'd share that with you, man. Just the cam on it is pretty cool. So what you see is, you know, there's the grooves where, you know, it goes up and down that little rail. The barrel, pretty thick and heavy barrel compared to the Glock. It's solid. Caliber 9x19. Well, that's the top of it. Let me show you this. So your cam fits in like say. See the grooves, right? And then that's how it slides back and forth. So unlike the locking lugs on the Glock, you have the cam. And so you can see the angle right here at which it tilts based on the locking block, right? And then with this, it just slides back and forth. Again, I had to shoot it to be a believer, but I have to be honest with you, that it is a straight up tack driver. It's unlike anything I've ever shot before in a pistol. So, you know, kudos to those guys, but you know, I thought, man, over $1,000 for a gun is pretty expensive. But since they've merged with PMG or done whatever with PMG, Sooner State Arsenal or whatever had like a liquidation sale, and so I got it for $649, so $650 for the gun. It's still a little bit more expensive than a Glock, but it's unique, right? I was like, I got a whole stable full of horses, but I have a Zebra too. I mean, yeah, everybody wants to talk about the Zebra. So, yeah, that's the Zebra of guns. You know, it looks like everyone else, but what are all these different colors and stripes on here? But anyway, I geek out of that kind of stuff, and I hope you do too, man, because that's what makes it interesting about firearms, is that there's a mechanical side that stimulates that little 6-year-old Lego builder inside of all of us to go, man, show me how that works again. That's really unique, and I couldn't come up with anything like that. That's not where my brain is. But when I see it, I'm like, oh, that is pretty cool. It still doesn't stop me from carrying my everyday carry, but it does make it interesting to go out to the range. And then you start thinking about, for me, I start thinking about at what way, how is this gun applicable, I'll get it right here in a second, within my spectrum of personal defense. Where could it find itself a home to be a part of the defensive plan that I have? Now, obviously, let me caveat by saying, look, we don't be switching around guns until we are 100%, like no kidding, proficient on the one gun that we're going to carry on our body to defend our lives with. Don't waste time trying something new just because you have a new toy. You don't want to change, like I said, with the whole grip thing. You change your muscle memory, and that could be the difference in whether you are alive or dead. So don't screw around with that. Once you have that in place, then when you bring new guns into the plan, then you got to find a way to use it. Now notice I said bring guns into the plan. Now you can bring them in your house, put them in your gun safe, but don't make them a part of the plan until you know exactly every single nuance about it and you are 100% proficient in that thing. Keep using the one that you have until you're proficient with it, and then move on to something else. Okay, and you got to determine your own, plateau level here when we say the word proficiency. Okay, some guys are like, proficient, I can load it and I know where the trigger is and I know how to make it go bang, and I'm proficient enough. Okay, well that's on you. For me, I have a different standard of proficiency, but nonetheless, I don't mind getting a gun and I don't mind looking at it and shooting a box of 50 or 100 at it, but I in no way make that conscious decision that, hey, I'm learning this and ingraining these motions and movements into my defensive plan. Don't do that at all. It stays in the safe until I first of all can find a place for it, within the defensive plan, and then I've trained enough on it to actually put it in the plan. All right. Well, that's just me. That's how I roll. But I was like, how can I use this? Which way could I put it into the defensive plan? How would it work? And I don't know yet. I really don't know yet. So, how am I using it today? I'll answer that. When I go to the range and I want to work on speed drills, accuracy drills, I use it as a way to compare how I run my everyday carry gun versus this superior mechanical device. It's just a compare and contrast right now. And the Strike 1 actually beats in accuracy the locking lug guns. Who'd have thunk it, right? I know. And it ain't by much. I mean, we're talking like, fractions of an inch, but what happens under stress? Your shot spreads out. So I'm like, it has a lot going against it, but it has a lot going for it. I just wish I could make a hybrid of these or these. Well, maybe one day it'll happen. I don't know. So anyway, I just thought you guys would enjoy that. This is something like, if you were right here with me, like I'd sit here and talk for another 2 hours on it. Like, and check this out, and check this out. Look at this. But the big picture is it's a cam, which means the slide reciprocates straight back and forth, and then the lower bore axis. The downside is it's a 6.25 long slide. There's not very many of them out there, so it makes getting, Gucci gear and accessories a lot more difficult, if not a lot more expensive, or both. And then at one point the price of the gun was just like, I could buy 2 more Glocks with $1,000. So 2 for 1. And more importantly, out of everything else, the most important factor is there's no proven reliability standards yet. There is with the Glock or the SIG or Smith & Wesson, whatever your the big brands that you're carrying. Some LE department, some military unit somewhere is carrying those guns, and so that means they've got a lot more hands operating those guns more often, and there you get the data to come back and say, this was a failure part, or this was an ergonomic issue that they had, and so they've redefined and redesigned the gun, right? So, I mean, look at Glocks. You're up to what? Revision 4 now? From back when? Back in the 80s? So, yeah. It's like that new hybrid car that comes out, and you're like, oh, great. We can drink green chai tea and not have to use a steering wheel and save the universe and the ecosystem at the same time, and then nobody's got a charger for it, and you run out of battery in Tucson, Arizona, a long way from home, and then you're up the creek, right? So yeah, I'd like to see a lot more more data and reliability testing done on it before I would like put my life behind it. So right now it's just a fun toy to ooh and ah over the engineering of it. But I am impressed. All right, guys. Well, we'll have another shop talk here for you next week. So as always, stay alert and practice often. Catch you next time.